As Australians adapt to the greatest changes since World War II, so too are our industries.
We've got to actually have some capability onshore to mitigate against the risk that we won't be able to get it from offshore.
So where are the future jobs for the workers of Australia in 2025?
Innovation in Australia went down consistently over 30 years of uninterrupted economic growth. So it seems like we need a crisis to get us off our backsides and get us working together.
Things have changed so much. I've currently got 3 daughters, and when I was their age, my father taught me how to cut steel and weld steel, but the way that things are changing in the industry, I'm teaching them how to program robotics and how to laser scan.
The clarion call to revamp Australia's manufacturing sector and provide jobs in life after Corona has been heard here, just north of Brisbane.
I remember the first line of robotics we got, not too sure it was the right move, but what I realised was every line of robotics we commissioned, we actually employed a further 10 people.
Des Watkins says that it's business that needs to invest in both staff and technology.
You often hear things about the skill set or there's not enough training going on, but even Watkins said we identified that we're going to need more staff, we're going to need more skills, we're going to need more boilermakers. So not so much what the government's doing about it, but what we're doing about it.
My dad worked in printing, and his role changed when they got rid of the typesetting.
Clem Giles began here as an unskilled labourer 8 years ago. Today, he does a job that didn't exist back then.
I was asked if I would be able to operate the first machine that Watkins Steel bought, which was a robot coping machine, and I sort of leapt at the opportunity.
For all the investment in manufacturing, jobs in the sector are on the decline. Analysis from global professional services firm EY reveals manufacturing employment in Australia has decreased by 6.7% over the past 5 years. And despite an enormous amount of money spent on R&D in manufacturing, the industry only contributes 5.6% to GDP, which is way below other OECD countries.
Andrew Liveris has advised the Obama and Trump administrations and now the Australian government about revitalising the sector.
When we think manufacturing in this country, we think of the factory, we think of production with smokestacks. In fact, manufacturing of the 21st century is in fact the ecosystem of R&D, design. We're good at digging things out of the ground, Mintech. How about value adding to the minerals? How about taking our rare earths? How about taking our lithiums? How about going all the way and making batteries here in this country? How about going all the way and making solar panels in this country? How about making wind turbines in this country? So we should have a policy that works with the private sector to help focus in on the sectors we can be good at, 5 or 6 or 7 that have been identified that I'm aware of, that we can actually scale and create those jobs for the next generation. That should be one of our primary responsibilities. COVID has just brought it home.
And yet, Australia's robotics take-up remains slow. There are just 83 industrial robots in service for every 10,000 manufacturing workers. And investment in machinery and equipment is the weakest level since World War II.
Joe Masters is chief economist at consulting firm EY.
I don't think the manufacturing in Australia in the future, in 2025, will look anything like it did in the past. In the past, we've got clear examples in manufacturing of areas that were protected by tariffs, for example. Australia's a small open economy. We have a small domestic market. We need to be outward looking if we're going to have a robust, resilient, flourishing manufacturing sector.
Larry Marshall leads the National Science Agency.
To do truly agile manufacturing where you can rapidly shift from one product to another, you need robotics, you need machine learning, but knowing what product to make and how to make it unique, you can't do that without humans.
What worries me about the future is children not getting out and playing enough, is them staying inside and concentrating on their technology.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's have a look. Well done.
Director of Perth's Pachamama Childcare Centre, Kirsten McPhail, moved into childcare from financial services after eyeing off an opportunity.
Oh, look at those ones.
Childcare is a growth industry. Families are going to need more and more childcare in the future.
As a sector, childcare, healthcare and education have seen the lowest R&D and innovation investment, and yet have seen the biggest increase in jobs, 593,000 from 2014 to 2019.
In regards to early education, you can't automate taking care of children. You can't automate their learning. You can't automate building relationships that the children so desperately need.
The good news is we're going to need hundreds of thousands more Australians performing childcare, aged care, healthcare, education. The bad news is because of the way we've underfunded those services, the quality and compensation of those jobs is too low, far lower than it should be.
We call it the Australian National Outlook. Try to use science to predict what markets and what industries would be most successful for Australia over the next few decades.
The CSIRO roadmap forward points to potential industries with a huge future for Australia in 2025 and beyond.
We know, regardless of what we may think, opinions about climate change, we know that the world is going to zero emissions. That's a market trend. So forget the politics, forget the ideology. It's a market trend, and we can either be damaged by that or we can recognise that and actually try and take advantage of that.
Regions like Tasmania's Tamar Valley have long been bystanders to crumbling industry and dying jobs. The latest being tourism, thanks to COVID, which had accounted for 17% of all jobs in the state.
When I walk the streets in Tasmania and see unemployed people, but whether they be young or old, what I see is a real lost opportunity in our state.
Michael Bailey is a proponent of a new plan to transform his state into the battery of the nation.
One of the great ideas that's been floating around for the last few years that's now really getting momentum is how we can build a plant in Tasmania, maybe more than one plant, to produce hydrogen.
Hydroelectric power in Tasmania is already world-class, but new clean green hydrogen technology could leave behind much more than just the byproduct of water.
Tasmania expects to be fully powered by renewable energy by 2022, exporting the excess energy using existing infrastructure and opening up a market worth $10 billion by 2040.
Without this sort of innovation in Tasmania, we'll be left behind by 2025.
So Tasmania, Gladstone in Queensland, parts of Western Australia, places where we dig up raw materials from the ground and put them on ships and send them overseas. I think the future is going to be different to that. Rather than just shipping raw material, we're going to add value to that raw material.
For the energy-intensive industries. There's about 200,000 jobs at risk in this country if we don't actually create that. And going overnight to renewables is incredibly difficult to do it because renewables don't give you base power yet. They will. I'm a big fan of putting in sovereign capability to protect ourselves, but also to create next-generation jobs.
To build the Australia of 2025, the jobs and industries of the future will not rely on the past.
We are a long way from many parts of the world, so we need to invest in technology and human capital that can try and offset some of that high cost base and make the most of Australian products in the global market.
The jobs of tomorrow created by decisions made today.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.